This is Shan. We're going to get started on going over the data collection for the outcomes report. In the room with me, I have Dick Harmon and Paula Kruger and Ruth. So how this is going to work, I'm going to read through the guidance document.
I'll make sure everybody hears this.
Oh, if you can't hear us, let us know. I don't know. I assume everyone can hear us. If you want, we can unmute. Yeah, unmute. We're going to unmute you just for a minute in case anybody's having any problems.
Jill Gleason, can you hear us?
I sure can.
All righty
Okay,
then.
great. Well,
thank you. You were our guinea pig.
Jill can hear us. We're going to go ahead then. Okay, great. So we sent out late yesterday afternoon the guidance document that we're going to walk through today. If for some reason you don't have that, send an email to shan.sasser@iowa.gov and I will email that out to you. We've already noted a couple changes we might want to make to that document, but what you have today is pretty good that we're going to go through. So if you don't have it, you don't have it in front of you, just let me know and we'll get that out to you today. So several weeks back we sent to you an Excel spreadsheet with data elements of information that we want to collect in order to help us to start to gauge whether the LifeLong Links activities are having an impact, or we're just it's sort of our starting point for data collection on who's calling, what they're calling about, and what kind of services they're getting. And so Paula and Dick started off taking a look at what's an ESP now that we could collect and pull automatically rather than have you each sort of tabulate for yourselves and generate the report and submit it. What we thought we would do is we would look at what we could pull and generate the report in-house and then provide to you. So once we started to look through that, we determined there's a couple of pieces that new processes or new things that you're going to have to select within ESP to facilitate us generating that report. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through each data element of information we're going to collect and then highlight where something might be new, a new process or a new procedure or a new option you might have to select so that we can collect the data we need. Okay, so just going to start right at the top with the first data element that we're going to collect, and that is the number of unduplicated LifeLong Links IRNA consumers. Essentially, all we're going to do for that data element is run a report on the number of people you've entered into ESP. So there's nothing new that you have to do there. As long as you are entering your callers and their information into ESP, we can run a report to collect that information. So for that first data element, nothing new to do there. The second data element is on the number of unduplicated LifeLong Links IRNA consumers given information about additional services. So what we're going to do there is collect information or collect the number of consumers where in the information provided field you've selected at least one service. So Paul is highlighting that now under ESP. There's a box, list box where titled information provided, and in that list are a number of services. And so somebody's called in, you've given them information, and you recorded in there, say, information about transportation. All you gave them was information about transportation. You've recorded it there and saved it. Okay. We'll run a report that tabulates number of people that's gotten at least one piece of information as recorded in that field. Okay. The third data element is the number of consumers referred to other AAA services, not options counseling. So again, this procedure is probably not new for many of you who've been working in the field already. What we're going to do is whenever you select type of case, referral provision, Paul is going to go through and give us an example. And you add the service. In this case, it's going to be caregiver education. and then you've matched that to the AAA provider or the services where the AAA might be providing that service. So she's using this at probably Aging Resources because our example lives in Polk County. Okay? So again, that's just a simple referral provision, adding the service and matching the service. As long as a AAA is listed there, that consumer will count under that data element.
Yes. Now, I'm not hitting the refer button because obviously that will automatically skew our numbers, so I'm not hitting the refer, but if I were to pick Aging Resources, then I would hit refer, and that would go down below in the referral history, but I'm not doing that for that reason.
Okay. So the next data element that we want to capture is of the number of people who've called in to LifeLong Links, how many were referred to options counseling? Okay. So with that procedure, the only thing new here in the referring to a provider process is that we've added options counseling as a service. So when you are doing referral provision, adding options counseling, and then matching the service, that will get recorded into that service table, and we will then run a report that will tell us the number of people who've been referred to options counseling by looking in that service table. So again, this is a new procedure. I don't know how you want to communicate to your IRNA and options counseling staff, but they'll need to select that the service of options counseling in ESP. When I get through this first section, I'll stop for questions, okay? All right, so the next data element we have here is the number referred to Telegen for Medicaid waiver determination. So the guidance for when you have to do this is not complete yet. In other words, what I understand and what I said to Paula, what I understand, meaning Shan Sasser understands at this point, is that Telegen is doing the core standardized assessments in the future for all waivers, but at this point they're only doing it for the intellectual disability or the ID waivers. So if you have a client who is seeking waiver determination and they are seeking determinations for the ID waiver, then you're going to refer them to Telegen. Eventually, as I said, when we hear from DHS, they'll be doing all waiver core standardized assessments. And then at that point, you just refer them to Telegen in those instances. The process that you need to follow for us to capture the number of clients who were referred to Telegen is, again, very similar. You go into referral provision as the type of case. You add waiver assessment as the service, and then you match that service to the provider, which is Telegen. And then down the road, we'll run a report, and that will tell us, by looking at who the provider was for waiver assessments, the number of people that were referred.
There's Telegen.
Okay.
And then we'd hit the refer button again, which we're not doing today.
So the next number is simply going to be the number of individuals who called in, or the number of LifeLong Links consumers who called in and were referred to an external provider. There's no new activity on the part of your IRNA and options counseling staff there. As long as they are referring to a provider, we're going to tabulate that information by pulling, writing a query, writing a report that's going to tell us how many were referred to an external provider. And by external provider, we mean anyone that's not a AAA. Okay, the next data element here is the number referred by provider type. That's a report we'll run based on the provider types that are entered into ESP. We're going to generate a report that will give us a sense of the different types of providers LifeLong Links consumers are being referred to. No new procedures you have to do there. As long as you are entering referrals and you're entering providers, we'll run a report that tell us what kinds of providers are being, to whom they're being referred. Okay. At this point, I'm going to stop. I'm going to unmute. We'll have all the phones unmuted, so if you have a question, go ahead and let us know.
Hey guys, this is Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hello. Hey, I was wondering, is this going to be put into instruction format so as new staff come on, we would be able to provide them with a booklet or a manual or an instruction sheet or something?
I was planning on putting it into the ESP manual as soon as I can. We have a bunch of new people coming on, so I'm going to try to do that, to find the time to do that, Jill.
Thank you so much, Paula.
This is Karen in Davenport.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. I have a question. I understand, selecting a service and that I don't refer, but do I hit search to list all those?
Yes, you would go in, you'd select your service here on the front, go into match, make sure that you click the one that you want to match. You hit the search button. You only use the builder button if you want to get something more specific. But for our case, it just hits search and make sure that you hit the county so that you get the county in which that client lives. You just get those services. Then hit search. Yeah. Hit search then. Yes. And it's selected there, then you'd hit the refer button. Or you can run your reports. Yeah, you can run your reports at this point. I always suggest running your reports here so that you can mail these out if you need to when you have a long list of, let's say, chore providers. You can mail that list out right at this point. Then you hit refer when you've taken a look at it. Does that answer your question, Karen?
It does. Thank you.
Any other questions about what we're looking at in order to collect the data that we're going to turn back out to you at the end of the month, or not the end of the month, but according to the monthly report schedule? Okay. All right, so I'm going to plunge ahead here. Oh, I guess I have one more here. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry. So the next data element we're going to look at is the number by consumer referral method. And what we're trying to establish here is you are all generally following up with the consumer and providing them provider information. So you might be, as Paula indicated earlier, you might be generating a list of chore providers and then mailing that out. Or you might be talking to a consumer that you're going to connect them up with a warm referral by phone, so they're on hold and you're connecting them up with another staff person, or maybe you have another provider. So you're going to directly hand them off through warm referral. Maybe what you're going to do is generate that list of providers and you're going to email it out to the consumer, or you need to make a phone call. So you're going to say, okay, consumer X, I'm going to get back with you. I'm going to make a phone call and I'm going to talk to the provider or whoever and get things set up going for you. So what we're trying to capture here is those methods by which you are referring consumers to providers. So we've added some new options here that allow you to list the method that you use to refer the consumer to the provider. So Paula's pulled up the history note. If you look at that activity drop down, there's 4 new options there. So referral by warm handoff, referral by email, referral by mail, or referral by phone. So whichever method you chose, select the appropriate one, enter your case note as appropriate, and then save. And then we'll run a report that tells us essentially the most common method folks are using to refer or connect a consumer up with a provider. Okay, I think everybody's still unmuted, so if you have a question about that, are we okay? All right, good. All right, so the next major data element that we're going to be looking at is the number of unduplicated LifeLong links, INA callers seeking information about institutional placement or nursing homes, okay? So again, a caller calls and they say, I want some information about nursing homes in my area, and you provide that to them. So all you need to do for this data element is under information provided, you're going to select nursing home. And then we'll run a report for that month that says how many people have nursing home listed in their information provided field. Correct? Okay. So that gives us our first pool. So how many people called about nursing home? Then the next pool is of those people who called about nursing home, how many also got information about home and community-based services? And so under the information provided field, if home and community-based services is listed in that field, then they'll get pulled into the count. So again, that's just about recording in the information provided field that you provided them home and community-based services information. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to look at, of those people who called in about institutional placement, how many were then referred to options counseling? So again, it's just, you're going to go back, you're going to do that, that they were referred to options counseling the same way you have referred them to other providers. So you want to select referral provision. You're going to choose the service of options counseling, and then you're going to match them to the provider. Once you've done that, that's going to trigger in our report that that person is going to be included in that count. So they called about nursing home placement, and then they were also referred to options counseling. If that's the case, then they are tabulated and included in our count for that number. Questions about that? Okay. Zipping along then. Okay. So the next data element that we want to look at is, so of the number of people who were referred to options counseling, how many actually received options counseling? And we're going to do that. It's a multi-step process in order for us to determine that the person actually got options counseling. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to verify that options counseling appears in the service list, which it does because we added it previously. You're going to go into the program field once you're ready to start. So you've made the appointment, you've made the contact, you're going to start options counseling with that individual. Go into the program field, select options counseling. Okay. Then the next step is you're going to proceed with how you would do your options counseling. So you're going to add services, you're going to get them referrals, you're going to do your consults, you're going to do your plan, your regular follow-ups as you would normally. And you're going to document that as you normally would in ESP. Then you're going to do your 30-day follow-up. And as I understand from Paula, you're going to do a 30-day follow-up case note, or excuse me, history note. I apologize, not case note, history note. That indicates that you've done the follow-up and the results of that follow-up. Once that process is completed, you're going to go into the history notes window under activity and then select options counseling complete. And we need to have that option selected in there, as that's the only way we can determine from the way ESP is set up that options counseling has been provided. So we need to make sure that once you've finished options counseling, that you've selected options counseling complete in the activity field. And you may enter additional case note or you may not. And we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get to the next data element down the road here. But if there's additional information you need to provide in here, you can do that. But the essential piece right here for this count is to make sure that options counseling complete is selected. I'm going to pause for questions about that. Okay? We're okay?
Well, I'm so sorry. It's Jill again.
Okay.
Is this session being recorded?
Yes.
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 Is it
Okay,
for real?
good. We can have staff come and listen to it later on.
Yes, you can.
It'll be about a week or so.
Okay, it takes about a week for it to get posted. And so, but we'll have this document out too, this guidance document, which I know is not like specific step by step, but they, you would want to maybe distribute to this to them as well.
Super, thank you.
This is Karen in Davenport again. Sorry, another question.
Okay, good.
This is about the history note, a couple items back. If I'm, for example, going to select for the activity referral by mail,
Okay.
and the person called me in with a telephone call, am I entering two notes, one for telephone call and one for referral by mail?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because
Yep.
we still want to know what kind of contact I had with that person.
Right. So you're measuring so that is capturing how they called in, but we also need to capture like the method you use to connect that person then up with a provider.
Great.
And Karen, by doing that telephone call, you're also able to do your time study tracking too. So you'd need to consider that time study tracking is going on.
Okay. So when I select referral by mail, I'm really not typing much of a case note in there then.
No, you probably don't have to. Nope.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions before we move on to the next piece here? Okay. So the next data element that we want to capture is of the number of options counseling clients, how many received or how many completed a level 1 assessment. And so, Paul, if you could switch over to the Word document down there at the very bottom, this task field. Yeah. So I want to be clear. We talked about this, I don't know, was it last week in the, it seems like a long time ago, but in the time study about when a level 1 assessment is considered complete. And when we say a level 1 assessment is complete, we mean all of the consumer information on that level 1 assessment form has been completed. So if the I&A person starts collecting some of this information but doesn't have it entirely completed, we're not considering it complete until either the I&A person or the options counselor, whoever that may be, completes all of the information in the consumer information section of that form. Okay, so that's what we mean by level 1 assessment complete. All right, so in order for us to record that as a level 1 assessment completed for an options counseling client, we want to make sure that options counseling has been selected in the program field, that the level 1 assessment completed has been entered into the activity dropdown in the history note, which we'll go over here in just a second, and that the options counseling complete has been selected in the activity dropdown in the history note field. So once all of those criteria have been met, then that person will then, or that consumer will be counted in the report that we create. So, let's say you've already got them all set up. You've got them set up under the options counseling program field. Now you're going to go into the history notes field. You've completed the level 1 assessment. Now whoever did this, it doesn't matter as long as somebody's done it, and you're going to select level 1 assessment complete. And then your case note, if you have a case note to go along with that, you can enter that here, or excuse me, case note. If you have text or things to follow along with that as normal, you go ahead and put that in there, and then you can close out and save that. Okay, that's okay. And so then you follow along, you finish up with so you've done your level 1 assessment, you do your level 2s, you do your care plans, all that business, and then once you're done, you've selected options counseling complete. Any questions about that? Okay. Okay, so then the next sort of category of information we're going to be looking at is the number of unduplicated options counseling consumers who received information about home and community-based services and institutional placement. So again, this is of the pool of people who received options counseling, how many got information about nursing homes and how many got information about home-based services. So the criteria here, we don't have any specific procedures that we're going to go over, but the criteria here is that option counseling appears in the service list. Options counseling has been selected in the program field. The service information reflects that they received information about home and community-based and nursing homes, okay, and that then the options counseling complete option has been selected in the activity drop-down history. So when all of those criteria have been met, that person will then be recorded in the count here. So we've pretty much gone through all of the procedures that you report it.
You don't need to be separated, right? You have and, so that you don't need to know how many were one or the other.
It should be
We need both.
It's both.
It's both.
Then you need to have separate case notes, otherwise what if they get one and not the other? So you only record it if they do both.
Right.
Well, it's going to select it if they have home and community-based services in the service field and nursing home in the information provided field.
We're having a sidebar up here.
I thought they were entering in the case note, the history note of the options counseling complete. They were entering HCBS in the.
We haven't got to that point yet.
Oh, I thought you were at the bottom one.
No, I'm at the very top one.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Great.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm on unduplicated number of options consumers who received information about HCBS and institutional placement. So they were an options counseling client, and at some point under the services or information provided, you select home-based and nursing home. That's how they're going to get recorded here. Okay. Now, of that number, we want to know how many opted then for the home-based services as opposed to nursing homes. Okay. So the only way we're going to be able to do that is by looking at the case note follow-up of how you recorded how that case turned out. So we're just going to go through this scenario. So when options counseling is initiated, you're going to choose options counseling in the program field. You can back up there. You're going to add services and referrals, including both HCBS and nursing homes. So Jane Smith called in and for a spouse is interested in finding out how, maybe that spouse wants to go into, we need to get that spouse in the nursing home, or maybe we want to pursue some HCBS services, we're undecided. So as part of the options counseling plan, you have them pursue both of those options to find out maybe what's going to work best for them. And then at the 30-day follow-up, you find out, okay, where are you in that process? Are you still pursuing HCBS, or are you pursuing nursing home? Has the person gone into the nursing home? You're going to want to track that and then the result of that. So you've done your 30-day follow-up, and let's say they chose that they're still pursuing home and community-based service options that you gave them. Okay, you're ready to close out. You're going to go up to the options. So when you're going to open your history note window, you're going to do a new note. Your activity is options counseling complete. And then in the case note field, you're going to enter HCBS. Okay, so that's going to tell us that that person was given information about both nursing home and HCBS, and at the 30-day follow-up, based on your follow-up information with them and consult with them, you've determined that at this point they are pursuing. Wow.
It wants us to change the bit thing.
Just minimize it.
Just minimize it, and we'll go back later.
Yeah. In your case note field, you're going to indicate that at this point they're pursuing HCBS. The person is not in a nursing home as far as their primary concern or their primary issues. They're still interested in HCBS. So you enter that, save it. That's all you need to do, and you're done. Now, if they had selected nursing home, saying they're still, they are considering nursing home, or the person has gone into nursing home, that's still their primary focus, then you're going to enter NH for nursing home in that case note. Okay. And that's how we're going to, that's the best method that we've been able to come up with in order for us to determine of the number of people who've got options counseling who are interested in HCBS or nursing home and what their ultimate decision was. Any questions about that? All right, well, then we've got through them all.
Yay.
What more do you need from us then, or what might be more information or guidance or information you need from us to help you implement this or make sure we're collecting things correctly or clarifications you might need.
Until that other piece comes out, there's pretty much a step-by-step in this instruction sheet that we sent to you to use until that time. We'll have to figure out what kind of format you need for that step-by-step that's different than what we handed out today.
If we don't have questions, just as Ruth, I just want to emphasize that the deeper we dive into this BIP process, the more we realize the importance of collecting data and that dollars are tied to data. And we're trying throughout the process to make it easy on you all by helping you develop system-generated reports. Mm-hmm. But those reports are only going to be as good as the data that you enter. Mm-hmm. And so just want to express again the importance of entering your data good
to begin with,
because nobody wants to have to print out client files for everybody that you spoke with during a month and trying to figure out this data. Mm-hmm. So please, please get your data entered right the first time, mm-hmm. so that this can be easy on everybody and so that we can pull down all the dollars that you're working so hard for.
And so I guess the next step after this is we're going to run our first report probably the first week of December or around the 10th, which is when those reports are due.
That would depend on ESP and where OCIO's at.
So yes.
We're shooting for that. We'll shoot for our first report, and then we'll generate the report, send it out to each of the agencies, and then once you've had a chance to look at it or you have questions about it, then we'll just follow up then. So I think that's where we are as far as we know with the process. There's some ESP issues we're going to be working on. But as long as you are entering information according to this guidance, that's how we're going to be generating those reports based on this information and how it's entered. All right. Any other? Okay. Well, if questions come up down the road, you can contact Paula. You can contact me or Dick or Ruth or whomever, and we will share the wealth, share the questions, and proceed from there.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.